Hey, 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 it's Rebecca, and you're listening to Resilient by Design. Today I'm interviewing Jen Sottosanti, who is interior decorator supreme and a Power of Process alumni. Jen is another designer who is moving into design or has moved into design already as a second career. Her first career was being a nurse. Like, talk about a total shift. But at the same time, there's so many cross, what would you call it? Like similarities, like skill sets. Helping people essentially is what we do with design, right? And it's really neat to see Jen and I have like a really candid conversation. Stay through to the end of this episode because at the end, she and I go like really on a tangent about balance and we talk about the real struggles of being a parent of young children, how we try to shut off at the end of the day, the little tricks that we're starting to implement to help us. I share some of the tools that I've been using. She shares what she's been using. She shares how Power of Process has really helped her in her mindset and her business. But this is just a really hearty conversation with a lot of meat. So I really think you guys are going to enjoy this one. Let me know and go ahead and enjoy my interview with Jen. All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Okay, I'm very excited to have you here, Jen. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. Why don't you first just introduce yourself to our listeners?
For sure. Thanks, Rebecca. I am honestly, truly honored that you asked me to be on your podcast. So thank you very much. My name is Jen Sottosanti of Jen Sottosanti Design out of Sarnia, Ontario. And if for those of you who don't know the little town of Sarnia, we're actually about 3 hours west of Toronto. We are a design firm that is a full service design firm that specializes in custom builds and renovations. And we really hone in on the flow, space planning and functionality of a design. So that's something that we love to focus on because I think it's always beautiful to have a beautiful design. But if you don't have that functionality behind it, then it's not as beautiful as it should be.
Yeah, totally. And you're a mom?
Yes, I'm a mom of 3 kids, 11, 9, and 8.
Busy time.
Yes.
And this is not your first career.
No. So I was a nurse.
Tell us about that, like the first career, and how did you move from the first career to now what you do?
Right. So I was a nurse for about 7 years full time. And I basically, after I had my 3rd child, I started kind of back it up a bit. I basically thought that staying home with my 3 kids was going to be enough. It was kind of be like, awesome. I have this amazing opportunity. Not everybody has to be able to stay home and be home with their kids. And I love my kids so much. And I'm so glad that I'm able to be home for them. But at the same time, when my 3rd one came along, as much as I love spending time with them, I literally was, I don't know how you explain it, not losing myself, but realizing that, kind of just being a mom to me, felt not right. Like I felt like a disconnect. I felt like I was searching for something else besides just being a mother to these 3 adorable children. So this is a true story because the computers and phones listen to us. I was always looking up what it would take to, if possible, to do an interior design course. So I kept looking up online, seeing all the possibilities, seeing what I can make work, because I realized that I couldn't go to school to do this. I had to do this online. So it had to be an online course. And I did find one. And this course literally kind of, I want to say, haunted me for like 2 years. It would send me emails, say, hey, you want to sign up? I know you want to sign up. And I'd be like, no, I can't. Right. And I literally, like, one day, everyone was at school. Even my husband was at work, and I literally called my parents and I said, I think I'm going to go for this. I think I'm going to sign up and I'm just going to do it and cross my fingers. And sure enough, I was accepted in, and I haven't regretted anything. I haven't looked back. It has been a whirlwind for sure.
So you were a nurse.
Yes.
Then you decided you wanted to be an interior designer. That to me sounds like a pretty drastic shift, like type of job, right?
Yes.
From working for someone else as a caregiver. So you probably are very caring and giving with your clients, I imagine, if you were a nurse.
Yes.
And so it comes naturally to you to want to help people. What, when you started your interior design business, what were some of the first challenges that you faced that maybe you didn't anticipate?
Well, the business side of it.
Right.
So as amazing
big challenge.
So amazing as the course was, it was a really in-depth course, and I did not expect any of that. Like, I think I met a friend during that time and my class, and we were both like, they're teaching us this much stuff. Like, it was just, amazing, because I feel like it does allow you to branch out to different ways. And different roads of interior design. But I didn't realize the intensity of the course. But what they didn't teach us was how to start your own business. And
it's almost like schools training you to work for some big, massive design firm. But there aren't even that many big, massive design firms out there. So it's so, I don't know if you felt that way. It's like they're training you to be in the corporate environment, but then very few of us actually pursue that path.
Right. No, it's so true. And I think, like, there were aspects that they taught us, like professionalism and all that kind of contract stuff, but they didn't really go into depth on like how to start your business and the steps and kind of what you need to be successful in your business. So, anyone can start a business, but to be successful is another story, right? So that was huge, and that was important to me. So, that's kind of truly how I started coming across looking for ways to learn now about business. So now I've invested time in school, and now I'm going to invest time in learning about business. So my husband has a business background, but I felt like there were some differences in his business and my business. So I needed to kind of find people who either supported or could relate in my world versus how he did it.
You say business, like that was the one thing you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm like need to learn about. I'm struggling with this. Were there any specific instances in your business where you were like, okay, I don't know how to do this? Like, what were those specific things that you thought, okay, I need to further my business education because this is not exactly what I expected?
For sure. Oh gosh, there were many. So for sure was like, how much do I charge? Like, how much do I charge for a design consult? How do I even ask them for that without, having that awkward money talking conversation? There was also like, again, I mentioned that, we built a home, and I knew how to build a home, but I didn't necessarily know the process to do it, like to actually start A to B, to make sure that it was going to flow the best way that it could, so that it didn't cause my client or me stress. And I think that's it's funny. When I was building my house with my husband, I kept saying like, well, I need to start like jotting notes down, like what we're doing at this point, what we're doing this, but because we were so into our build, there was no time, and we were so exhausted. So for me to write down exactly how each step went and what was needed next just never happened. So I felt like that was definitely things that I struggled with. I struggled with again, how to charge my clients as a whole. Like, where do I start the pricing from? And like, yeah, like, do I do by hour? Do I do a flat fee? I read some books on both of those options. And I'm like, what is right for me? What is going to actually make sense? And I think my biggest stress and worry was, because this was my second career and because I was, I don't want to say older, but I felt like I didn't want to spend the next 10 or 20 years of my life trying to figure it out. And I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't have made mistakes and still will make mistakes and learn from them, but I didn't want to go through like massive potholes and trying to get out of those potholes, because I just didn't feel like I had the time for that.
Yeah.
You know,
like,
so
let's fast track this. Come on, let's get past this learning curve. I'm a certain age now.
Yes,
yeah, I totally
exactly. Right.
Yeah,
and so I wanted to invest in something that was going to, or someone who was going to give me that wisdom that they spent time figuring out, so that I could get a little bit ahead of the game and not fall too far behind. Right.
So then what was tell me about that moment when you knew you wanted to take, because you are a Power of Process alumni, you've taken Power of Process. Tell me about that moment that you realized, okay, I need this course.
Well, okay.
And how did you even land into my ecosystem to even know about the course?
Well, I'm honestly, I've told you many times, I'm so thankful to have landed in your ecosystem, because I just feel like, you're like, designers know this too. You're always you're kind of in your own little cave sometimes, and you feel like no one knows what you're going through. No one's not necessarily there to either collaborate with you or talk to you. And so just discovering the community and discovering you was the biggest blessing, because it opened my gates up to where I thought I was going to have to like figure all this out on my own. And so small world, Jamie Sparling from Breako Interiors was the girl who I was just briefly chit-chatting on Instagram back and forth a little bit. And we connected, and she shared with me her business coach. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to start listening. She shared that you had a podcast. So I'm like, I have to start listening to her podcast. And I literally remember when she shared that, I like started going through them. I was folding laundry, I was doing the dishes, and I was just listening to episode after episode. And I can't even tell you how many times I was like, oh my gosh, she gets it. Like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh, this is what I need. Like, it was back to back to back. And I've told Jamie a million times, like, I'm so grateful for her sharing that. And then jumping into that Facebook group right away and just being a part of that community. And then to do the Power Process, I was on the wait list. So I signed up right away as soon as, I think I even wrote you a couple times. I'm like, when are you going to launch the course? I need the course, because I knew you only did it a couple times a year. And so I just knew that just with the support of you and the community, I'd be able to, again, just get a little bit more ahead and be able to start rolling and feel confident, because I think you could still, again, I love listening to podcasts. I love reading books or listening to Audible books about success and mindset, but to actually initiate it and implement it and get going, it's not always that easy. And I feel like that's my personality, is to like accumulate and have all these options on to do it, but I don't actually do it because I don't have the time. And I think I've heard you talk a couple of times where I'm the same way, where I'm like, oh, this app is cool. Oh, this program's awesome. I'm going to get all this. And then before you know it, every month I've got this stack of bills that I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that I signed up for this thing and I'm not even doing it, right? It was good. And I know it's going to help me, but it's like, unless you're like actually using and utilizing. And so I think just, again, doing the Power Process is something that you were so like clear on the step-by-step on how to do it and how to break it down. And, I had my aha moments, because they were just like, yes, I got that. This is like amazing. And I'm going to do this. And yes. And you shared your templates, and it was just much easier to start to create my own process by the help of your process. So
yeah. And I think like what sounds like you're referring to is that idea of accountability, right? It's like, it's one thing. I had this conversation earlier today with another POP alumni who was saying that like she signs up for courses, and I've done this too, that are, what they call evergreen. They're like just there. You can sign up for that course and do it in your own time.
Yeah.
The problem is there's nobody there to like hold your hand and make sure you actually sit down and do it in your own time. Right. And so what part of what I feel very strongly about, people have asked me to change the model. Like, well, why don't you just like have it? People can buy it anytime and they can access it when they want it. I'm like, because there's something about going through it live, whether or not you show up to every live meeting or study hall or active in the Facebook group, that it forces you in a way to be active, to at least do some of the work, to at least listen to it. And you can't get too far ahead, so you don't get the same sense of overwhelm of like, oh my God, there's 8, I don't know how many modules we have, 5 or 6 modules. And oh my God, I just did that and there's so much more to go, but I can't even access those yet because the next one's not available till next week. And it gives you some breathing room. Now, that said, it's a ton of information that a lot of people will spend months, if not years, honing in on and figuring out. But I think there's something about that accountability aspect of showing up, being there for a certain period of time with other like-minded designers and myself, of course, and my team, that kind of helps keep you in line. It's no different than going to school in a way. Like your teacher's like, okay, we're having a test today. I mean, I don't test people, just to be clear. There are no tests in Power Process. Right? Is that feeling of accountability?
100%. And I think again, I took the initial course in the spring, and then I went through that whole thing. I started implementing a little bit of the stuff at the time. I was literally on the top of the biggest, you could say, energy, motivation thing, and then summer hit. And the kids got home and my mojo kind of died down a bit. And then I wanted a mental break. And then I took that a little bit, which again, it's hard because I feel like they're so little and they still, they still kind of need me there. So I try, and they're truly my priorities. So I try and take that time and that break that I can. But once fall hit and you relaunch the course, which is why I love it as well, is because you're there forever. So you can actually jump back in and join in the conversations and just like remind yourself of everything again. It's like a refresher. So you just keep, and not everybody, there's some courses that you pay for, and if you don't catch it, you miss it. You can't go back into it. And I just think, even like you mentioned, this past group was definitely really, they talked a lot. They had a lot of questions. And
super
that wasn't
active.
that.
Vera and I were like, what's in the water? Like, this is amazing. Everyone was like contributing. There was so much conversation. There were so many people that really actively shared what they were doing, PDFs. Like, it was really amazing. You're right.
It was. And I feel like, there's always going to be new takeaways just because of that. Right? Like you're not going to be able to predict the questions that people ask. And I feel like there was so many good questions and answers. And again, if for some reason I couldn't make it, I could re-listen to that afterwards, which is what I love about it. So that's, it's like a forever course in my pocket that I can always refer to. So
and as we update it, which we do, you get the new updates. It's not like I took a course where I'm like, this is great, but I get lifetime access to that version. Right. So as things are updated, I would have to pay to get that. And so, because things will go out of date a little bit. I mean, it's a lot of principles that we teach are steadfast and they're not changing. It's not like marketing techniques, but there are updates. And as things change and as sales techniques change and as the industry changes, we are updating it probably once a year so that the new students and the old students can come back in and get that access. That's such a good point. I'm glad that you shared that, because I think some people listening right now might be thinking, oh, yeah, I've heard about this POP thing. Like, I kind of want to explore that, but I'm not really sure, like, now's the right time. It's hard to, like, what would you say to someone who's sort of thinking, oh, I want to do Power of Process, but, maybe I'll wait till the next time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the next time sometimes might be too late. I feel like I would have signed up sooner if the gates were open sooner when I realized about your program, right? So waiting on the wait list was really hard because I wanted to get in and I wanted to get going, right? So I do feel like after sitting in through and then listening to the recordings of the second one, I was able to start implementing more. I created the Working With Us document, which I've been putting out, which has been awesome, and all those kind of things. And I feel like those are the things that are starting to make my other parts of my job easier. And so without having all that created and ready to go, it's hard to like move forward and do what I love the most, which is the designing and the creating part. So that's the hard part, right? And that's where I struggle with the most is being a solopreneur right now, not having any help at all, and trying to feel like, okay, today I'm going to work on my templates and linking them to Dubsado. And today I'm doing this on my website. And today, I'm going to work on my client's project because now I'm like a couple days behind and I should have already given him this. And so it's like your mind is just always going, and it's hard, like I've mentioned, to find this balance that doesn't exist in our life. So, So
I think we should talk about that, Jen. I think that's a really good, you've like hit the nail on the head of how I think a lot of people feel time and time again. It's sort of like that comes and goes. Like you said earlier, sometimes you're on this high and you've got the energy and you're all in and you go, but then, it's summer and the kids are home and obviously they're my priority and I want to be present mother and I want to do activities with them and take them to their camps. But then that eats into that work time. So then you feel like you're falling off the wagon with the work. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like I still have to go and meet that client, or I haven't followed up with that proposal I sent out, or I need to go to site and I need to troubleshoot, or whatever it might be, deal with the back order, deal with the damage. Like there's so many things that we have to do as a business owner. And it can be hard to find that balance because I don't think balance, like you said, I think it's a myth. Like, I don't think there's this like perfect balance. There's going to, in my opinion, and I'm no expert, but what I've seen and what I've heard from lots of other human beings is that there are going to be times in our lives where the balance tips in favor of one thing or another. Like, I don't think it's ever 50-50 perfectly balanced. So sometimes it's going to tip in favor of family or personal and health, or sometimes it's going to tip in favor of work. I think it's us giving ourselves the grace to recognize that there is no perfect. Instagram makes it look like it's a real achievable thing, and it is not. And just give yourself the grace. Okay, in this season of my life right now, I am mama. Like, I'm going to do the minimum I need to do my business because I want to be so present for these kids right now for whatever's going on. And there'll be seasons where, I need to put in a little bit extra time. Maybe we need to hire someone at work. Like, I don't think as an entrepreneur, until you get to a point where you can work yourself out of your business, because I do think that it's possible if you scale and you can take a step back. Yes, you still have extreme responsibility and a lot of work to do, but you might be able to delegate some of the things that you're doing right now to free up your time so that you can do something else. Right. No. And but what you're saying is you're not there yet. You're still that solo entrepreneur trying to wear all of the hats, work on your business like a good little POP alumni, POPOG. It's hard. Yeah, it is. And you said it. It's about literally giving yourself grace. And it's true. I think I was listening to a podcast about that, about literally realizing that there's going to be times in your life where one thing matters more than the other. And instead of beating yourself up over it, and you could say, even getting angry with yourself about it, just literally embracing that and realizing that it is a season, and there's going to be seasons, whether your kids are younger or older in your life, there's going to be seasons where you're going to give yourself all in one. And I think what I'm trying to realize too, and my goal for this year, and I think it's very similar to yours, is to be more intentional, even with my time, and learning
learning to be more self-disciplined and intentional with my time while the kids are at school, so that when they come home, I can learn to shut my brain off, which I know for creatives is super hard. I struggle with that all the time, and it's a real thing. But I do feel like that is what my goal is for this year, is not to be so hard on myself, not to beat myself up on, making everything perfect. I feel like everything will fall into place as long as I keep moving forward. And I mean, obviously taking breaks is okay, but as long as I keep moving forward, then I know that I will be where I'm meant to be in my journey. So
yeah, I think too, I mean, it's something that I've been working on, and I share this inside our community, but like, is just, for me, it's simplify, which is very similar about being intentional and understanding that we cannot be productive 8 hours a day. Like, it's just not, like, you're kidding yourself. And so they say, whoever they are, the scientists, right? It's like 4 hours tops are your productive hours in the day. So if we're intentional with how we use our time, and not to turn this into a time blocking episode, but if we can be intentional and be present where our feet are for that 2-hour chunk, for that 4 hours, and organize our weeks so that on this day, like, for example, today I'm just recording podcasts. I can tell you, Jen, I checked in on my email at lunchtime and it is on fire. My inbox is on fire. There are a million emails coming through. And I had to say to myself, no one's going to die. It is not brain surgery. I'm just going to take a step back. I'm going to focus. I want to have an incredible day filled with incredible interviews. I want to do the best job I can do, having conversations with these women so that I can help our community. The emails can wait until at the end of the day or maybe tomorrow. But it's hard to do that because I think, especially as women and as like people pleasers, and we just want to be productive and efficient. And we feel so good when we get that inbox to zero, or we feel so good, we just get that email out. Let's get that difficult email out to the client or to the supplier. But it makes us feel better, maybe temporarily, but at what cost? Right. The cost is burnout because we're exhausted and then we can't show up for the other parts of our life.
100%. Yeah. I'm
in
a huge
way,
checklist.
It's a conversation about boundaries.
It is. It's exactly what I was going to say.
Ourselves.
Yes. And that's what it is. And it is hard. And I think that's something that I'm also learning and having challenges with, because it is hard to turn yourself off when you have clients who are reaching out to you at certain parts of the day. And I am trying to be more mindful this year on that, but it depends. It's so hard. And, I have clients who work all day. And so at the evening is their time to reach out to me. And so even though I'm working on their stuff during the day, and so it's so hard. And I feel like, just like you said, I want to be able to help people and I want to alleviate that stress from them. So if I'm trying to do that and they're reaching out to me when they can, and I can't respond back, I feel like I'm not helping them the way I should. So I struggle with that whole balance thing. And it's a very hard thing to do. And it's a hard thing even for me to just shut off my brain, step away from my computer, step away from what I've been doing, and now focus on my kids because I got home off the bus, or focus on my husband because he came home from work, and just to do all that because I mentally can't. And so I think, I don't think did I mention this already with Izzy about talking about just shutting down, taking time prior to ending my day to prepare mentally to shut it off. And there was another there's a podcast out there called to Both. Her name is Joy Michelle, and she talks about that. She has got really cute little snippets of information on because she's a mother and she's a solopreneur or entrepreneur. Should I say not solopreneur? And she talks about that shutdown, the startup and the shutdown, so that you can mentally be available and then not, you could say, have your emotions and everything take over because you're now angry because someone walked in on you when you weren't finished your
Yes,
mood board or
that's such a
your
real
project
thing.
planning. And like, my husband will come home and I'm listening to this really awesome podcast because I'm cooking dinner and he wants to come home and talk to me. And you know what I mean? So I'm always
irritated. Like, don't talk to me. Isn't it obvious that I'm busy? My
It
AirPods
is.
in my ear.
That's exactly what it
He's
is.
like, oh, I just wanted to talk to my wife.
That's exactly what he
Let
said.
me know when she comes back.
When he listens to this, he's going to be like, see, I told you. But it's so true because that's what it is. And but I'm always trying to grab, even when I'm getting ready in the morning or we're getting ready, I'm trying to grab snippets of time that I can for I love learning. So I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to audible books. And so, but I always every time I'm like, okay, it's quiet. No one's going to bug me. I'm going to put my ear next to mom, or like, honey, I just want to talk to you. I'm like, I just put that freaking AirPod in my, like, are you kidding me right now? So it's like, that's kind of what happens. And then again, it's all about me controlling myself and not getting angry and being like, you're right. I shouldn't be, but it's hard. It's so hard. It is.
It's setting boundaries for yourself in the sense of like, okay, this is the chunk of time I'm going to do this activity. But then it's something that I'm working on too, is I need to set those boundaries with my family. I was having a call last week with a new business coach, and we were talking about this idea of boundaries came up. And literally in the 90 minutes that I was talking to her, I was interrupted 2 times. Even though I had told everyone I need the house because I don't have a private studio or a home office of my own where I can work. I live in this tiny Toronto house and my office is not private. And, these business coaching sessions can feel a little bit like therapy sometimes, right? Where you're bearing, like, even in our like designers room or in our community, like there's a lot of like heartfelt sharing and sometimes you don't want other people to hear you. And so we were in this call and she's commented afterwards, she's like, so fascinating that we're talking about boundaries. And it was only 90 minutes. Your son came in to get something from outside, even though you had told the kids, like, because they're at a play date next door. And then your husband came home and they came into the kitchen to do things. And so we didn't quite get into it, but I think where that conversation is going to go is that I need to teach the people in my life to respect the boundary.
Yes.
Right. But what that indicated was that now it's different. If you're cooking dinner and you're all in an open shared space, that's one thing. But it's if you're constantly letting them step on your time, then they think that's okay. And that it's just natural. But if you make it clear, and this is something I'm working on, this boundary of, okay, this is going to be my time. I need the house to myself for, God forbid, an hour and a half, like not that long.
Right.
Or whatever it might be, like shutting down, or I'm not going to, I don't know what it is for you, but understanding that, okay, I said I was going to do this thing in this time. Nobody can interrupt me, but I also can't interrupt myself.
Right.
Which I think is even harder to do, is holding ourselves accountable for the things we say that we're going to do.
Yes. Yeah. And it's true. And you obviously have a space outside of your home. And that's what makes my summer months harder, is because everybody's home and I'm at home. So it really is difficult to like literally tell them, hey, I'm in the office, the door's shut. Don't come in here until I come out. Because, but I still can't, they're 11, 9, and 8, and I still can't go to the bathroom without somebody coming in and saying, Mom. And it's kind of like, really, this couldn't wait like 60 more seconds. Like It has to be, it's the funniest thing. And it's a real thing. I see Instagram reels on it all the time. And I share it with my husband and I'm like, look, like this is real. This is why they do these stories, is because it's a real thing. Like the kids will bypass the dad to go find the mom to ask her a question.
Every single time. Absolutely. Right?
So
I get mad at my husband all the time because he will go to the basement bathroom. This is so off topic, but I think it's just hilarious. He'll go to the basement to have his time in the bathroom to do whatever. Yes. Right. And nobody interrupts daddy.
Yeah.
But I just need to go upstairs and use the bathroom for my thing. And it's like within 30 seconds there's someone at the door coming in. It's like, how come mom doesn't get the same? But it's because he's made it super clear. He set that boundary and I have let them come in.
Yes.
And so I've set that expectation. Yes. I think our society is also just a very different time now than it used to be. Because nowadays, like we are just so available and present as parents for better and for worse. Whereas like think back to like our parents' generation, where for a lot of those people, it was children are meant to be seen and not heard. You don't interrupt, you know, you don't, some people didn't even see their parents very much. So it's like a real shift. It's like the pendulum may have swung a little too far.
For sure. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, we're not here to talk about parenting.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole other topic. But it is valuable to recognize that is a huge portion. So many of us as parents, like that is a huge portion of who we are. So to only talk about business and not include the conversation about that balance or that struggle to find that balance while you're also living your life as a parent, like we would be remiss not to include both of them.
For sure. And I think, yeah, like you said, it truly is a real struggle. And just learning the on and off switch and practicing that on a daily basis and setting those boundaries and teaching even our own children to respect those boundaries and stuff like that. So it's so true. I feel like that's, that has been like a big growth for me. And I think if I'm wanting to focus even on, I mentioned to my husband this year, I'm like, we're really going to we're going to start having family meetings and we're going to sit down and learn how to respect each other more and respect our boundaries and all this stuff, because it is hard. It's like when we're all in the house together and the kids are getting bigger and all that stuff, they need to understand that and respect that. So that's
totally good for you. Yeah. And then the children can learn, you're teaching them by example too, right? So that they can grow up and have those boundaries for themselves.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So what does 2023 have in store for you? What's on the horizon for your design firm? Where do you see things going for you?
Well, I am, like I said, I mentioned, I'm finally working on a website that should launch the next month. That has definitely taken a deep dive. And actually, it's been great. The girl that I've hired to do my website, she's been great and kind of almost reiterating my client avatar and really rethinking my branding and stuff, which is what you teach in Power Process. So that has been a great experience. So that's one big thing off of my checklist that I want to check off and do. And I have a couple projects on the go and I have one possibly starting. So I'm pretty excited about that. And my goal is to keep myself busy, but not too busy that I can't be present for my family. So that's what I was going to mention is just just the whole fact of us even choosing this entrepreneur career is what allows us to have those boundaries and have those options to put family first, which if we were not in this industry, we would definitely be tied down to, regular work hours and reporting to a boss and stuff. And that's something that I really love. And I sometimes forget that I have that advantage. And so that is why it's so hard to be like, okay, I can shut myself off now. Like no one's going to tell me I can or cannot. So I think that's definitely,
I like that. I think that that's a really good message because you're right. That's usually one of the biggest reasons people go into business for themselves. They want to have control of their time, of their schedule. And then what happens is we get so busy doing the thing that we love, right? Servicing our clients, and all of a sudden we have no flexibility and we don't allow ourselves to manage our time. And so we end up being more controlled than when we're in a regular job.
Right.
Because we hold our clients almost as if they're our bosses.
Yeah, you're so right. That's so right.
Need to take back that control. You don't, like when you start your own business, it's not like you don't have a boss. Like you have you do have people that are there to hold you accountable. Like you have to deliver your service to your clients. Right. However, you need to be in the driver's seat. And so I think that's what you're saying is, okay, if I want to only work till 3:00, I'm going to only work till 3:00.
Right.
If I want to take a 4-week sabbatical in the summer and just put everything on pause, I can do that. You might need to put some systems in place and set that strategy early on so that you take on projects and your clients know what to expect and what's coming, but it's completely possible. I think it's like taking back the driver's seat in our own business, because we start off feeling super pumped and excited about, yes, I'm in control and I've got and then all of a sudden, before we know it, we feel like the puppet, what is it? The puppet, and who's the puppeteer? I don't even know. I'm my own puppeteer. Like it's this really weird vortex that we find ourselves in.
Yes.
And so we need to just take a step back and take back that control, set those boundaries. For me, hiring someone was a really big help.
Right.
Because at least I had someone else to shoulder the work.
I know. That's the struggle. And I was just chatting today with my website creator, and I was just like, sometimes I feel, because again, it's hard for me as a type A person to let go of the control. It's like, if I'm going to spend all this time training someone and then teaching them and providing them all the stuff they need to do it, I might as well do it myself. But then I struggle with, I don't have time to do it myself. So when am I going to get on that? Because I need to get on that. It's funny, when I first started school, I feel like I had so much energy. I could stay up till midnight and do my schoolwork even afterwards. And as the years have progressed, not only have I realized how important sleep is for me, but I can't do that. By 10 o'clock, I'm clonking out. Like I am ready to go to bed, and my mental capacity isn't there to stay up. So as much as I would ideally, everyone's in bed and now I can spend this time working, I can't. So with only so many hours of the day to do that, it's the time. I think that's something, I guess I mentioned, I want to be more intentional this year with my time and just learning how to time manage right so that I can feel accomplished, even in the smallest ways, because I feel like that's what I'm also hard on. I'm always, I only was on the phone with so-and-so today or this, and I felt like I did nothing. And my husband will always say to me, but you didn't, because you did do this and you did do this. Like, it's really hard for me to feel accomplished. I guess I'm just extra hard on myself that way. But that's what I'm trying to give myself more grace for this year, is like, you know what? I did this. I did check it off my list. It wasn't the biggest thing I could have done, but tomorrow I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and just planning my weeks ahead and actually being, like you said, not distracting on my own, because when you're working in front of a computer, it's easy to get distracted in front of a computer, right? So all that stuff, and just everything from boundaries to shutting off my phone, because I do know, like, when I actually do put it on focus, I get so much done versus paying attention to how many dings come across my phone. Whether it's family or media, it's always dinging. So it's like, it's crazy. Like and it actually makes you feel worse. Like when you're not focused on the one thing that you should be on, it actually makes you feel way more, you could say, scrambled eggs in the head. And then that's what really makes you angry, because then you're like, I didn't do anything today, but it's my fault. Because I was all over the place. Exactly.
It takes you twice as long to do a task that should only take half an hour. It takes you like 2 hours, and you don't feel satisfied.
Yes.
I mean, what I'm hearing, because I can fully relate to it, is we are so hard on ourselves. Like, we need to cut ourselves some freaking slack. I don't know. It's not just you. It's me and every woman I talk to. We somehow feel like it's never enough. We've never done enough. We haven't achieved enough. When will it be fucking enough?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, I'm just asking this question because I feel the same way. Like, I clearly value productivity so much. And it's been really interesting. I've been using that journal, the 5-minute journal.
I was just going to bring that up to you.
To all of our designers room.
Yeah.
And I catch myself when it says, one of the questions is, what would make today great? I think. And there's like, you have to put 3 things. And I catch myself all the time writing things that are a measure of productivity. If I get this thing done, if I send that off, if I record the next module of the course, and I'm like, I have to pause. And it's been a really great reflection for me, because I'm more self-aware that, oh, shoot, is that really what's going to make the day great? Like, for someone who's looking to make this year about joy, there's got to be something else there. Like, is it just that I feel so good once I've checked things off my list? Like, who taught me that life was just about getting things done and checking things off a list? There's so much more to life, because it's actually not as satisfying as you think it's going to be.
Right. But you're right. And I think just backtracking a bit, just like you mentioned, like just our parents' generation and the way they were brought up to work. And that was not only their way of, providing for the family and showing love, but that was the only thing that they really, you could say, focused on and knew more of. And so I feel like in today's day and age, and that's why I love, and I try to encourage even my parents, like all the time, I'm like, you got to listen to this podcast. You got to listen to this book, because I just feel like there's so much room to grow, even in their age, there's so much room to grow. And there's so much out there now that I think it just, it invites all of this, this thinking that we're doing now. And actually, like, you could say reminds us, because I think, just like you're saying, like practicing gratefulness is hard. And it's not something, like you said, that you can just, like, I found it too. I had that app for a whole year. I have the book now. I actually got the book from my sister for Christmas too. And I told you, I feel like, and I got it, I had one existing too. So I have 3 of them. So I'm like, if this isn't a sign that I need to start journaling this year, I need to start journaling, because I keep hearing, even on podcasts, how important it is, and actually how life-changing journaling is, whether you do it in the morning or at the end of your day, and just reflecting on being grateful, because it is a practice, and it's not something that just you could say I'm grateful, but like, what are you grateful for? And realistically, like, do you even feel the gratefulness? Or are you just saying that you're grateful? And that's where I'm trying to really hone in on, like, being actually grateful and actually thankful for those little things, because then you could fill in those lines that you're saying, and being like, would be great is just if Luca came and gave me a hug today, or said, I love you, Mom. Like, those are the things that would mean the world. But here we are trying to be like, yeah, if I could get this done, if I could make this call, if I could, get my workouts all in this week, and blah, blah, blah. You're just like, it's constant, right? It's like, you're never, and like, when are the hours going to extend in this universe? Because I need more hours.
They're not going to. Newsflash.
Right. Yeah. So being present is huge.
So huge. This morning I had a moment, and I recorded a reel about it, but I had a moment where I was setting up all my podcast equipment in the back room here in my house, because I don't have a podcast studio. And it's one of the things that's been driving me crazy lately, because I want to have a place where I can just sit down. It's already set up. The camera's out. I turn it on. It's a pretty backdrop. Acoustics are good. It's private. Just all those things. Yes. And I get so frustrated. I'm like, oh, I need a bigger house because I don't have a home office. Or do I need to set something up in my office, or like make everyone go home? But then the HVAC kicks in. And so I'm thinking all these things as I'm setting things up this morning. And my daughter, who's 5, was watching me do all of this. And I was explaining, the lights are for the camera. And she's like, Mommy, isn't it so great that we have space in our house so you can set all this stuff up?
Aww.
And I was like, and it caught me, and I was like, yes, Sarah, you're right. I'm so grateful. And here in my head, I'm thinking, Rebecca, what the frick is wrong with you? Like, you have a beautiful home. You can make it work. Like, here's this little child who's seeing, wow, we have this space to put up all this equipment. Isn't it great? And it was like a real
reminder. Yep.
It was a great reminder that
our kids have a tendency to do that.
They certainly do. That's why we have them. But before we sign off, there's just one other thing I want to add to that. And then I want to open it up because I want you to share your nugget. Is that I think that the second thing that I think that we tend to do, and it's something I still do too, and I've been becoming more aware of, is we tend to try to do too many things. We overschedule ourselves. We tackle too many projects, too many tasks in a day. We have an overinflated sense of what we think we can accomplish. And then when we don't accomplish it, we're hard on ourselves. Yeah. But accomplishing those things was never realistic in the first place. And it's something that I only, like, literally in the last few months, I guess the last 2 quarters, I've been using this planner. I've talked about it. This is not an ad. It's called the Full Focus Planner. By Michael Hyatt. And it makes you, like, you sit down and you put down your top 3 things for the day and then other tasks. And now I'm acutely aware that I'm trying to do too much in a day. Like I put them down and it's really, I know people are like, oh, paper planners, that's so archaic. Like just have an online. There is something about putting it physically, sitting down, writing it on the paper. And I look at it and I'm like, now I'm starting to see, because I look back on, because you look at the day before what wasn't accomplished, and then you move it over or you move it to another day.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm like moving everything over,
yes.
and not even capturing the top three that I thought were like the most important.
Yes.
So, but it's been an exercise for me in a little bit of restraint and telling people, I don't have time to do that tomorrow. I can't fill in that white space in my calendar. That's not enough time to do to record a podcast. That's not enough time to like get to the consultation and get back to the studio.
Right.
Like I've started to pay attention to the fact that I have been overscheduling myself. I can't blame anybody else because I say yes to all the things, and it's not realistic. No wonder I feel defeated, exhausted, and like I don't measure up at the end of the day. Sure, there's like 10 tasks sitting on my task list that, oh, if I could just get one more done, if I could just call Enterprise Rent-A-Car, if I could, like, it's always the little shitty itty bitty things.
Yes.
Like, oh, I need to renew my driver's license. That was yesterday.
Yes.
Oh,
I know.
Just those things. And they add up and I'm like, but it's just little things. But you don't actually physically have the time. And so you can't breathe and do the things well in the time that you do have.
Right. 100%. And you nailed it on the butt. That's me too. I will have I'll just keep moving it over. I almost just need a stamp just to stamp it to the next page, to the next page, to the next page, because that's what I feel like I'm doing. And I do, my list sometimes can be like 20 tasks. I'm like, how on earth did I think I was going to do this today? It's not even possible. And I'm the same way. I tried a couple digital things, from journaling to even I tried planners, and I'm the same way. I feel way more satisfaction writing something down, physically checking it or crossing it off my list, because there's just something about it. And so, but that's basically what I'm the same way. I am the same way, and I feel like some days, like when I'm even booking my schedule now, I'm like, okay, I'm just booking my consult that I have today, because I don't know about you, but I find that if I'm really fully going in with full focus and intention for someone, like say a consult or a project, it's really hard for me to like shut my brain off and then go on to another idea or project right after or whatever. So I'm really trying to be mindful of that too, because I feel like I know my mind and I can't just jump into creativity and then escape from it. So that's the same thing that I'm trying to do, even for consults in my day. I want to be able to go in, be excited, and go meet the people, learn about their project, come home, take the time to like think about it, and then kind of versus like, okay, after the consult, I'm going to run to the grocery store, I'm doing this, and I come home and I'm like, what did I do today? Like, what did I even like take from that consult? Did I write everything down? Was I entitled? All that stuff. So I feel like that's exactly it. That's what I do. I'm always trying to stack on so many things just to make sure that I get it all in. But I am trying to be more mindful of that too. And just not, you could say, packing my days so much, because I just feel scattered. Like, it's not a good feeling to feel scattered. Right.
No. And doing like-minded tasks. So if you are out and about on the day of a consultation, maybe that's day you pencil in, well, I'm going to be in that area. Maybe I'll do some fabric sourcing because I'm out and about already, and I'm talking to people, and I'm probably have my makeup and my hair done. I'm dressed nicely. So let's take advantage of that.
Yes,
right?
true.
And be out. And then the days where you're at the computer, let's just stay at the computer. I can wear Lulus. I can wear a sweatshirt. No one's going to see me. And so if you can kind of focus your tasks, I'm excited to follow up with you, Jen. I feel like in like 6 months' time, I'm going to check back and be like, so how is that going?
Yes.
Tell us all the things. Okay. But we're running out of time. So I want to leave a few minutes for you to share the answer to the question I always ask at the end of every podcast, which is, what last nugget of wisdom do you have for our listeners today?
So, I have two, if I could share two of them. The first one is, for sure, anyone out there who is, debating on taking a leap of faith and starting a different career path, whatever it may be. That's something that I know was out of my comfort zone, 100% sure, but I am so grateful that I did. I have no regrets, regardless of the roller coaster ride that it has been. I truly believe I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. And I'm so honestly thankful for the path and the connections that I've made throughout this entire journey, because it's something that I think a lot of people hold back from. They think it's too late in the game. They think that they're too old to go on and do stuff. But truthfully, like I know it sounds cliche and it's, but cheesy, but it is, you have one life. And so if something's not making you happy in the career that you're in or whatever, like you can become a designer at the age of 60 if you want to do it. Right. Like, so just don't hold back. And really there's so many resources now out there in the world that you can really just be and do whatever you want to do. So that is my first nugget of wisdom.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. Number 2.
My second one, my second nugget of wisdom is to literally because I'm practicing this currently, is to really just drive in your own lane. I don't like to say stay in your own lane, but it's driving in your own lane, because you are going down this journey, as your company. And I feel like when you're constantly comparing yourself or feeling like you're not ahead of the game or you're not where you want to be, you're just kind of holding yourself back from what you can be accomplishing. So I feel like if you just focus on your goals and focus on the things that you want to accomplish out of your life, whether it be in design or not, that you will get there in your own time. Like you will get there when you are meant to get there, and all those opportunities and things will pop up as they're meant to come in. They're not going to come any sooner or any later. They are meant to come as they're unfolding on your journey. So I think it's hard in today's world with social media and just trying to literally not compare yourself and think that everybody's perfect behind the camera and in the squares, because that's the way life is. But truthfully, it's not. And I'm pretty sure if you, even if you reach out to people who you might think can help you or support you, you'll find that they are in the exact same boat as you are. And that's kind of what I am circling back to, from your podcast to your design community on Facebook, and even your designer's room. So even your designer's room, I was going to mention the days that you have had all those coaching calls, I haven't been able to make yet. And even though I signed up in April when you had the course, I've just had appointment stuff, but the beauty of it is that you record them all also. And so I can go back and I can listen to them and get those nuggets of wisdom from there. So I'm honestly so thankful for all that you do. I really am. And I'm honestly just so thrilled that I'm just one-on-one time with you, because I'm just I felt like you're just like my friend through a lens and through the designer's world and stuff. So I'm really just thankful. I feel very blessed to have been connected to you and in your ecosystem.
I love it. Thank you so much. Well, I know I feel very blessed. I feel incredible that I'm building this community with these incredible people, because I have to say that, like you, all of the members inside Designer's Room who are in the ecosystem are such sharing, caring, beautiful souls.
Right.
It is really amazing. And I'm just honored to be, able to watch and support you on your journey and on your business growth, because I really only want the best for you. I'm so excited you are on your way and you are doing so well already. Take your own advice.
I know, right?
Drive in your own lane. I like that. Just keep driving, because you're right. Yeah. The opportunities will come when the time is right. And it's such great. This has been a really great conversation. I think people are going to really enjoy it, because it's real, right? We're not like, oh, if you just do this, everything will be perfect.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no book. There's no book.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jen. It's been such a pleasure.
You, Rebecca. Thank you.
Isn't Jen just so lovely? Such a breath of fresh air, so honest. And I know we totally didn't really intend to go down the rabbit hole of parenting and balance and how we feel overcommitted, but I think it was a really good conversation. It's nice to have those raw conversations where we're not giving you the answers, but we're showing you that this is what we're going through and here are the things that we're trying. And I hope it resonated with you. I hope you also can take Jen's advice. Just keep on. keeping on in your lane. Keep driving in your lane. Don't get deterred by the rabbit hole of Instagram, of the pretty squares. Stay in your lane. Choose you. Focus on your business development if that's where you are in your journey. And if you are ready in your journey to level up and establish some systems and a process and create those working with us documents and checklists and really start to really formalize how you run your business, then Power of Process is probably exactly what you need. You can go find out more at RebeccaHay.com/power of process. And absolutely, please reach out to Jen on Instagram. I realize I forgot to ask her where you can find her. So I'm going to tell you right now that she is on Instagram, and you can probably find her new website through her Instagram. It's Jen Sottosanti Design, and that's Jen and then Sottosanti Design. And you can find her there on Instagram. She's a beautiful Instagram feed. And just give her a little DM and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. You were awesome. Because I certainly, I think I maybe pushed her out of her comfort zone to come speak today, but it was so worthwhile. So thank you, Jen, if you're listening. And I hope everybody else has a really great day. I will see you soon.